From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your Evening Update.
Kent's Meats and Grocery is much more than a grocery store. We carry a full line of quality meats, local and organic vegetables, and a large variety of fish, Green Mountain Smart Control pellet grills, and a full deli case of sandwiches and side dishes.
Well, as expected, the line of showers did make their way into the north coast, working their way this evening into Trinity County and parts of Siskiyou County as well. This line will continue to move to the east, southeast, the valley getting in on some of this rain, and I do expect it to get a little bit heavier once we do get into the early morning hours. So cooler and unsettled this week. Heavy rain, gusty winds, thunderstorms, but it looks like the snow levels will be fairly high, mainly above 6,000 feet. We do have the potential for flooding and mudslides and debris flows, especially for areas west of the valley. We're talking in particular along the coast and for some of those coastal range areas that is here just west of the valley. But by the time we get into the weekend, I do expect quieter conditions. So there definitely is going to be a lot to unpack in our deeper dive forecast. But before we get to that, here is your Krueger's quick cast for your Monday, November 3rd. Now tonight, we are going to see the clouds on the increase. Showers will be on the increase for the valley and even in the mountains north and east of the valley. Temperatures not getting too terribly cold because of the added cloud cover. So tomorrow morning, we got the showers. Now, not everyone's going to be wet. Chico, I think, is going to have a hard time. Willows, south end of the valley, places southern Lassen and even Plumas counties are going to have a hard time seeing some of those showers as well. But otherwise, I think the rest of us will see some of that wet weather here for tomorrow morning. Now, the latest forecast model that's coming in, this is coming in from the HRRR forecast model. Now, here's what's interesting. This is what's known as a narrow, or the atmospheric river, right? It's a narrow band of moisture. And a lot of times that cutoff between where it rains and where it doesn't rain is pretty sharp. And all you have to do is shift this line of showers a little bit more to the south, a little bit more to the north, and that'll make or break whether or not you see rain. Now, based on this, as we go into tonight and tomorrow, you'll see really the farthest south it goes looks to be somewhere around central and southern Tehama County, working its way northeastward. This would mean through tonight, early tomorrow morning, no rain, especially for Glenn and Butte counties and even most of Plumas County as well. So as we take you to tomorrow morning, again, you can see it's staying to the north of Glenn and Butte counties and Plumas County, and then it actually starts to work its way northward. So places like Red Bluff and Redding that will see the rain Tuesday morning will then turn over to drier conditions through the afternoon. Still some stray showers here and there, but most of the rain will be on the north coast. Now, as we go into Tuesday night, now a bigger band, that same band of moisture, but now a cold front is going to help to squeeze out that moisture as well, bringing us heavy rainfall, thunderstorms, gusty winds associated with that as well. So that's through tomorrow night. Stick around for the deeper dive because we're going to talk about what we expect as we go into Wednesday, Thursday, and for the rest of the week. So for your Tuesday, there you can see chances for showers are going to be slimmer as you head to the south, including even places like Plumas County. And to the north of that, I think everyone else has that shot of rain here for your Tuesday. So as we look at our 7-day forecast for the valley, thunderstorms are certainly going to be the case on Wednesday. Now Thursday, dry for the first half of the day and a chance for showers. But I think, again, Chico may dodge those showers on Thursday. And then for the most part, minus a few stray sprinkles, maybe a light shower here and there on Friday, should be dry. And that'll be the case this weekend and even going into early next week. For the coast, of course, off and on rain through Thursday, and then by Friday through the weekend, it's dry. Now, there are some indications that we could still see a chance for showers on Monday, but now the latest forecast models are actually backing off on that potential, even for the coast. But I'm still going to keep that chance in there nonetheless. And then, of course, you can see the chance for showers and even some thunderstorms, gusty winds for Wednesday. Thursday, some afternoon, evening showers, and then dries out for Friday through the weekend and even into Monday. All right, that's a look at your Krueger's Quick Cast. Now we're going to get into our deeper dive forecast, which is sponsored by Shasta Hearing Aid.
Frank, come help with the dishes.
What?
The dishes!
I heard it the first time. I just got back from Shasta Hearing Aids, but she doesn't know it yet. What?
Forget it.
So as we take a look at that deeper dive forecast, here's what we've got. We're going to start off with the satellite image here. You can see that rain and all of these storm systems that are off to the west, they're all moving our way. So this is what we have in store for us tonight, and then this is what's going to be moving in. This is a more potent storm system right here. This is what's going to bring us the heavier rainfall, the gusty winds, thunderstorms, the works. So we talk about this atmospheric river. Let's talk about how this is going to impact us. So as you can see, as we go into this evening, you can see that's where that atmospheric river is pointed. Again, it's that narrow band of moisture coming in from the subtropics. A lot of moisture associated with this. Now, as we go into Tuesday morning, this area of low pressure, as it shifts or as it dives down to the south, what it's going to do is it's going to pivot this more to the north. Look what happens as we go into Tuesday afternoon. You see how instead of pointing this way, now it's pointing this way. Again, because this low is pushing to the south, helping to really pivot that more to the north. So as we go through the afternoon on Tuesday, chances for rain will diminish as you head to the south. But you can still see we have a lot of moisture along the north coast and even the coastal range. And this is where we expect to see the heaviest amount of rainfall for tomorrow and even into tomorrow night as well. Because now as the cold front moves to the south and east, it shifts back down to the south and everyone getting in on that rain as we go into Wednesday. But see, this is midnight, Tuesday night into Wednesday. So by the time we go into Wednesday morning, Wednesday midday, that's way down to our south. Now there's still going to be leftover moisture, but the atmospheric river itself is now down to the south, and we're just going to be left with the cold and unstable air, giving us more showers and more thunderstorms. Now you'll notice right here, there's another fetch of moisture that's going to head our way, and this could be here by late in the day Thursday into early Friday morning, giving some of us some of that rainfall, and then by Friday after, really through most of the day, we're not going to see a lot of rainfall. And then by the time we get into the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, you see high pressure building in. Now this looks like it's going to break apart by the time it gets into Northern California, but there's still maybe a chance on Monday for a stray shower for parts of the North Coast. So let's talk about atmospheric rivers and their strength. As you can see here, there are 5 different categories, 1 through 5, 1 being primarily beneficial, 5 being primarily hazardous. And of course, the intensity gets worse and worse as you go from 1 to 5. So let's talk about the category that we're expecting at least for the coast. So as you can see here, as we go into Tuesday, Wednesday, look at it, really spike. We are getting within the strong to extreme. Especially once we get into the extreme category, that's when we see that potential, really good potential for flooding, mudslides, and debris flows. Now, really what we've seen here is these not lasting very long. You can see it just kind of progressively is going to be fairly strong for at least a 24-hour period, if not a little bit longer. The longer that atmospheric river stays in one area, the better the chance of seeing some of that flooding. And that's why I do think the coast, the coastal range may see that. But when we look at the foothills east of the valley, a different story. And this is pretty standard. You see it's not quite as strong. You're getting kind of in that moderate range here, so not as much rainfall for the valley eastward, but still a good amount of rainfall for many of us. Now, with that all being said, again, you can see here for the north coast, the coastal range, north and west of the valley, we actually have a marginal risk for flash flooding. Then we go into your Wednesday. That actually starts including the valley and even east of the valley here. So we've got the potential for flooding over the next few days in some areas. Now it's the strong gusty winds that could bring us what we know as that convergence line around the Redding area northeastward. That could potentially bring some flooding as well. Now, as a result, the National Weather Service has issued a flood watch. Now it starts tonight for southern Humboldt, but everywhere else is for Tuesday evening through Wednesday morning. That's when we expect to see the most amount of rainfall in this area, and there's going to be that potential for flooding. All right, so let's take a look at Futurecast. Let's walk you through the timing of all this. Here we are this evening going into tonight. Again, we talk about that narrow band of moisture. Here's the atmospheric river right here. You see how there's a strong cutoff between where it's actually raining and where it's not raining. Look where Chico is. Look where Willows and Oroville. You're mainly in that dry area. Now, late tonight, early tomorrow morning, some of those could work their way into places like Chico and Willows. And again, all we have to do is shift this a little bit more to the south, and now everybody else is seeing that rainfall. So that's where things get tricky. And again, if we shift a little bit more to the north, then all bets are off there. So that's something we have to watch for tonight. then you can see really it doesn't shift anymore to the south. It basically stays just to the north of Chico, basically stays to the north of Plumas, Butte, and Glenn counties. But again, if we shift it a little bit more to the south, now some of you are seeing some of the showers, but the bulk of the rain should be north of that. But also note, there's a little bit of a cutoff as you head to the north end around Del Norte, northern Siskiyou County as well. However, what you'll notice as we go through the day on Tuesday, this will actually start to shift more to the north and east. Remember that low pressure diving to the south, and we're starting to see this begin to pivot northward. And we're going to start to see that here, especially as we go into Tuesday afternoon. You see how it's now pointed more from south to north. So you see how things are starting to dry out. Now, there's still going to be some sprinkles and light showers for the second half of the day on Tuesday for areas that are seeing that rainfall. But overall, you can see, of course, that bulk of the rain is to the north and west. And this is why, because the atmospheric river is going to be in this particular area through a majority of the time, and that's why we would expect to see some of that flooding. Now, what's going to happen is the storm system and the cold front is going to push to the east and push most of that moisture eastward as well. So by 10 p.m. Tuesday, you're seeing very heavy rainfall, gusty winds, keep in mind there too, by midnight Wednesday. So this is going to be an overnight event, folks. A lot of you are going to be sleeping in bed when the winds are going to be really strong, 30, 40, 50, even 60 miles per hour. Heavy rainfall, probably hear some rumbles of thunder, some lightning, and this will continue to push off to the east, and eventually Chico getting in some of that heavier rainfall. So by 3 o'clock in the morning, it's pretty widespread across most of the area, but by the time we get into Wednesday morning, this right here is mainly the atmospheric river right here. This may look like it, but this is actually the cold front. And it's behind that cold front that we're going to see the thunderstorms to begin to develop. So now at this point in time, Wednesday midday, the atmospheric river is mainly down to our south. So now it's just cold and unstable air, and we're seeing isolated thunderstorms. Now it looks like most of the thunderstorms will be in the higher elevations, and the valley may get caught up in some of that as well. But we're still seeing gusty winds coming in from the south. That's a classic setup for us to see that convergence line around the Redding area to the north and east into Bernie and even parts of Modoc County. And so you can see here, that's your classic convergence line that we typically see around here. And when these convergence lines develop, sometimes they can stay in one area or kind of wobble up and down a little bit here. So this could lead to the potential for some areas of flash flooding as well. So that's worth watching. But notice, we're just not seeing a lot of activity elsewhere. But there are afternoon thunderstorms still popping up for many of the higher elevations Wednesday afternoon. Now, as we go into Wednesday night, we're starting to kind of see things begin to wrap themselves up a little bit here. Still some scattered showers as we go late Wednesday night. But by Thursday morning, you're seeing a bit of a break. And the first half of the day on Thursday looks dry with mostly cloudy skies. But then that next plume of moisture is coming on in, and that's eventually going to bring many of us some rainfall. But again, you'll notice to the south, we're having a harder time getting in on some of that rainfall. Then we continue that through Thursday night, early Friday morning, but by Friday morning, Friday afternoon, minus a stray sprinkle, a light shower here and there, we're actually starting to see things begin to clear out by Friday afternoon, and then drier and warmer conditions for the weekend. So we look at the rainfall totals. These numbers are going to be changing day by day, but taking you through the end of the week, there you can see most of that rain is going to be north and west of the valley, as we typically see. Then sometimes we also start to see some of those heavier amounts to the east of the valley, and we tend to see some shadowing for parts of the valley, especially down to the south. So you look at Chico, you look at Willows, right? You're talking about a ½ an inch, and then closer to 2 inches possibly around the Redding area. And then we've got anywhere from 3 to even over 5 inches of rain for parts of the north coast. I'd want to bring in a bit more to Crescent City. However, we did see at points in time when areas to the south of Crescent City are actually seeing more rainfall. But any way you look at it, this is where we're going to see the most amount of rainfall, and this is where we have right here that biggest potential for flooding, especially as we go into your Wednesday. All right, so here's, Tuesday into Wednesday. This is a different forecast model showing you, let's see how it's now, instead of 3, now it's 5 inches of rain in Crescent City, but as well as Garberville, and 4 inches for Eureka. But you get the idea. I think we could see upwards of 5, maybe even 6 inches of rain for some areas here for the north coast and the coastal range. And then, of course, less, especially in the valley to the south, and then less off to the east as well. So that's kind of a look at the rainfall estimates, right? Now, snow, as I mentioned, is going to be fairly high, mainly above 6,000 feet. But some of the higher mountain passes, like Cedar Pass, for example, may see some snow. I don't anticipate that it would create any travel concerns, but certainly something worth watching, and maybe some snow over some of those higher mountain passes off to the east. Scott Mountain Pass, by the way, it doesn't look like we're going to see any snow up there. Again, you have to go above 6,000 feet. All right, now let's talk about those winds. You can see all the wind advice. We got a high wind watch for the immediate coast. We got a high wind warning for the inland areas of the coast, central Siskiyou County, and also towards Modoc County. We have a wind advisory for the valley and the surrounding foothills, mainly for Tuesday night through Wednesday. And you're going to see why. Take a look at the forecast wind gusts. There you can see, of course, as we go into tonight, a little breezy in some spots. Not that bad for tomorrow morning, but they start to pick up as we go through the second half of the day tomorrow, because now the cold front is approaching. So you see the stronger winds along the coast. We're seeing the stronger winds in the higher elevations, and the winds starting to pick up for the valley as well. But that's nothing just yet. Now we go into midnight tomorrow night. There you can see the reds, and those deeper reds, that's going over 50 miles per hour. So a lot of those mountain ridge tops, and even along the coast here, we could see gusts upwards of 50, 60 miles per hour. Then you look at the valley, early Wednesday morning, look at that. You're seeing gusts possibly 40, 50 miles per hour. That's not out of the question. And that, of course, translates to the same thing off to the east of that as well. Now, by the time we get into midday Wednesday, it's still gusty, but the winds are starting to die down, and they'll be weaker by the time we get into Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. So with those gusts, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, there's a potential for power outages. You've got the potential for broken tree branches, down trees, down power lines, the works. Then by Thursday, a little breezy off towards the north and west, but I do expect much calmer winds across the board by the time we get to the end of the week. And of course, that's when we start to dry things out as well. So we look at the temperatures, we're looking at low 60s for the valley, but we do rebound a little bit in the upper 60s to low 70s by the weekend and into early next week for the valley. Now, outside of the rain, right, this has nothing to do with the rain. This has everything to do with the high astronomical tides that we will see for Wednesday morning. That combined with the gusty south winds, you're going to be looking at the potential for some coastal flooding just from the high tides alone. Not to mention the fact that we're going to see a lot of rainfall, so could get interesting, especially for the north coast over the next couple of days. Now the wave heights we're going to see, they're increasing tomorrow, but even more so by the time we get into Wednesday. Not only small craft advisories, but maybe some hazardous seas warnings out there eventually as well. So if you have to be on a small boat, you may want to keep a close eye on that forecast. All right, let's take a look at your Trinity County forecast for your Tuesday. Showers for Trinity County all day long. You do have a chance for thunderstorms Wednesday, more showers Thursday, especially by the afternoon, and then drying out by Friday through the weekend and most likely Monday. Here's your Dignity Health North Coast neighborhood forecast. Now, I have still included a chance for showers on Monday. I tell you what though, the forecast models are backing off on that, but should be dry through the weekend. Up to the north, about 69 degrees for Gasquet for your Tuesday, 63 out in Orleans, and 66 degrees in Hoopa. And your Dignity Health Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast. For your Tuesday, yes, we've got those showers pretty much through a good portion of the day. Showers late in the day Thursday, dry Friday for the most part. We're still going to see a chance for a few sprinkles here and there, really across the board. It's the weekend that I do expect drier conditions, and that'll continue into early next week as well. Look at Modoc County, temperatures for tomorrow in the mid to upper 50s. Now for the eastern mountains, we've got 64 in Greenville, 62 degrees for Westwood. Now, as I mentioned, I do think that places like Plumas County in the eastern mountains may have a hard time getting any rain, as well as places like Paradise, for example. But to the north of that, yes, I think you can see better chances for showers, especially in the morning tomorrow. Now, for the valley to the south, I've got a chance in there for you, Oroville, tonight and early tomorrow morning. But the farther north you go, the better the chances of rainfall for your Tuesday, especially in the morning. So there's your 7-day forecast for Chico. I've put the chance in there, but really most of the rain will be north of Chico. That's what it looks like at this point. Now I've got thunderstorms in there for you in Chico on Wednesday, but I think most of that will be Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning, and then maybe drying out for a good portion of the day on Wednesday, dry for Thursday, Friday, dry through the weekend and into Monday. All right, now we take you up to the north. It's going to be cooler because we're going to see more cloud cover, better chances for showers through the morning and even into the early afternoon hours. But by the afternoon, a lot of that rain will push northward and north of the valley. So we look at that 7-day forecast for Redding, and there it is. Showers, thunderstorms, even on Wednesday. Wednesday is that chance we can see some of that convergence line where really you see some of those really strong thunderstorms, hail, lots of lightning, potential for flash flooding as well. Then maybe some afternoon, evening showers on Thursday, drying out for the most part Friday. As I mentioned, maybe a stray sprinkle light shower. Then we're dry for the weekend and into early next week. All right, that's your evening update. I'll have more tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. and live on Coffee with Krueger at 6:30. We'll see you then. Have a great night.
Hey everyone, I'm Gabe Kossel, owner of Shasta Hearing Aids. When it comes to hearing loss, a lot of people think hearing loss means they just need more volume, but that's usually never the case. Most people don't need more volume to what they hear, they need more balance and clarity, especially if there's background noise. That's where we come in. Modern hearing aids are built to help your brain focus on what matters, clarity and speech, not just loudness. If you've been saying, I can hear, but I just can't understand, come see us at Shasta Hearing Aids.